back to part 2 of the Suzuki Jimny build. We're going to go right into this. So here we're going to cut out the front bumper along the entire area right up to those fender flares. The fender flares we might keep on, or we may have to take off depending on the ground effects kit that we will look at here in a little bit to see if it'll work. The side skirt up to the door we will also have to remove entirely in order for the ground effects kit to work. The ground effects kit that was created was not meant to just cover over the stock. We actually have to take the stock bumpers side skirts off and make the change and then manually glue the new ground effects kit onto it, mold it in, fill it as usual. On the fender flares here we have these little small cutouts and I need to get those filled in as well. Here's the tire that was printed by Josh over at VCG Resins. This is a Convo Pro tire with a rubber Pegasus tire and then the Convo Pro wheel. Taking it off here so I can show it and break it down a little bit easier. This is a very thin profile. What this is going to do is give me the stance that I want, but also limit the amount of tire on the wheel and under the wheel well. The wheels are actually going to go a little bit above the pumpkin, so I'm going to lower this kit a little bit. I had to use a drill bit here in the back and drill out a little bit more of the resin 3D hub in the back for those inserts to go that will hold the metal rods into place. Because this kit came with those, I will be using them just to make it easier for me to complete this build on time before my trip here in January. The tread is a nice tread on these tires as well, which I am happy with, and they are directional, so I have to make sure I put them on the correct way. Opening the bag here, this is what all came over from Mike North at Northwind Customs. Great friend and also a great person in our local club here in Colorado. These are the fender flares. They do fit exactly to a T with the ground effects kit. However, with me utilizing the fender flares on the body, it may give me a better point to shore up everything and make sure everything's aligned correctly for the ground effects kit. If I were to take those off and put those fender flares in, I may have an issue where nothing is exactly aligned and that could produce further problems. Here is the left side drive dash that he recreated utilizing CAD and 3D printed in resin for me. I'm ecstatic to have this. He did do a few updates to bring it to a 1988 dash, which is what was in this one-to-one build, so I am making sure that I follow it as much as possible. The sides here are open just like the kit ones were, so I will have to do some filling on the side to seal it off, because when I do install it into the actual pan of the insert, it will show on the side window. So with that, I'll need to fill in a little bit more of the dash on the side so it looks full and whole. Now for the front, this is the front ground effects kit. We have the two holes at the very top for our lights, so it'll be our blinker lights, and then we have it filled in at the top where it needs to be. So this will be a fun way to put on and cut out the stock one and just see how it lines up for the build. We'll go with the side skirts here. The side skirts are a one-way install, so one direction we have to make sure we put on the right way, as one flare is a little bit smaller than the other and which way we go with the width, and that's just how the actual kit was built, but also how the stock body is in order to make it work. So with that, we are going to have to do a little bit of shaving here to make it fit as far as the width, but it will work just fine in the next video, which you'll see. On the back ground effects kit for the back bumper, there were 3 that he gave me and he made. One has these little small bumps right here that are convex, then we have them concave, and we have them without. And here are our tail lights that came in 3D resin. Those tail lights I'll need to paint white, and then I'll need to clear over and then use Tamiya clear orange and clear red to make the lights as expected. And here's the other one that has them. Trying to get it focused here a little bit. There we go. So just a couple of options. I do appreciate Mike giving me the couple options here to give me what I need and to make sure this build is as close to a one-to-one replica as I can make it. And as you see here, this is how it's going to fit. There will need to be some work done in getting it to fit just right, but like I said, I think those stock flares on the sides will be what I need for those fenders in order to keep it to where everything aligns correctly. It's kind of hard to make it to show you guys what it's going to look like, but here it is before I actually make the cuts and what I hope it comes out to be. Here's the dash as well. Dash is a little bit too recessed in there for what I like, so I will have to bring it out a little bit in the final phase of putting it together. Here we are, a couple weeks after on that prior segment. We have the 3D printed ground effects kit installed, as well as we have some filler with the 3D resin going around, and we're starting to work that. The 3D resin filler is just the liquid form of 3D resin. It has a nice capillary action, and we fill and we sand until everything gets filled. We also have here where I cut out the drive line, and I will be adding a aluminum tubing in the middle there where the transfer case was to take the transmission all the way to that rear axle, and that will be what I'll be using in this instance. And here you can see exactly the amount of detail that I used to cut out the front drive line, but leave the U-joint there as it's expected. The axles are right above the pumpkin for that, so I didn't have to actually do any cutting or anything or drilling to make the stance where I want it to be. I just moved them up above from where the actual hole was, where the pumpkin is not fully whole, where it's molded, and that fit. Here is the side skirt, and then also you see the filling here on the back, those little small slats that came stock for some reason on the kits. So I'm filling that in there along with the 3D resin. Now this 3D resin was great to utilize initially, but as I started to sand down more on it, it started to fray away because it doesn't have a great adhesion to plastic nor to the resin that was already cured. So I ultimately went with a few other types of putties to have to fill in everything here, and a lot of different sanding maneuvers. I ultimately like to sand with wet sanding to make it quicker, but with this instance I had to do a lot of dry sanding to not leave as many bumps and valleys and to make it as very smooth as possible for the transition from the fender flares to the actual side skirt and then to the front and rear bumper. I did have to do some sanding on the side skirt for the window wells to make them line up as they were a bit bigger. And then here on the back you see where I'm filling in where I cut out that 5th tire mount on the back tailgate there. So I'm just filling in where I have to, sand that down, make it look nice like it never existed. I did sand and level out the top as well to make it uniformed across the top part of that door. So this is part 2 of the video series. The next one will be the final build. This is my last mock-up before you see it complete. The interior I'm still working on and everything else, but I am very excited for how this is coming along. Without the help of VCG Resins by Reese, Scale Finishes, as well as Mike North over at North Winds, this project would not be the same nor a true replica build, so definitely appreciate them and all their help. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next one.